At that commission meeting, you said, it's dire, someone will die.
It's eerie listening to your words because that's what occurred. So let me just take a minute, sorry.
Fire Captain Freddy Escobar,
You're not supposed to make me cry.
35-year veteran of the Los Angeles Fire Department, wishes he'd been wrong, and this had not happened. For years, the LAFD union president warned that a disaster like the Palisades fire could happen. And while the cataclysmic weather conditions were historic, Escobar also blamed something predictable that hurt the firefight: money.
This is a woefully understaffed fire department. We either going to have a fire department that's going to reflect 2025, or we're going to have a fire department that's going to reflect the 1960s.
A CNN analysis shows out of the 10 biggest cities in the nation, Los Angeles ranks 9th when it comes to the number of firefighters per resident. And it shows millions of dollars in rescue equipment is just sitting in a lot, unused, because the fire department can't afford to hire the mechanics to repair it. LA's fire chief said in a recent memo the fire department's staffing levels were half the size of what they should be.
If we cut one position, if we close one station, if we close one resource, the residents of Los Angeles are going to pay the ultimate sacrifice, and someone will die.
Just last month, fire personnel packed an LA Fire Commission meeting, begging the city to rethink the budget.
These cuts came at exactly the wrong time, with calls for services at an all-time high and our firefighters at their breaking point.
We are straining our department's resources beyond the brink, and we cannot continue on this path.
City Councilwoman Tracy Park was there too.
There are large swaths of the city with no emergency response resources available.
Are we going to be having the same conversation next year and the year after?
We can't. We can't. I think that people are rightly upset, not only that this happened, but there is a sense that we as local leaders needed to do more for them. I feel like I let them down. And I've been screaming about it from the day I came in. And so I think there is an obligation of us to not let this be for nothing. I think this has to be the wake-up call.
LA Mayor Karen Bass said at a recent press conference that the budget didn't have an impact on the firefight here in the Pacific Palisades, mainly because of the unprecedented nature of these fires. Now, there has since been a city council meeting. Mayor Bass, as well as members of the city council, according to the fire union, appear to be much more on board about increased funding for the fire department. And the fire union says that they do feel that things may begin to change. Kyung Lah, CNN, Pacific Palisades.
I think that we're all on edge.
The National Weather Service says the LA fire risk is higher today after a short reprieve yesterday. It's re-upping the severity of its red flag warning.
What I'm most concerned about for this event is a new fire start.
CAL FIRE now ranks the Eaton blaze as the most destructive in Southern California history. It says the Palisades fire is the second. Officials say together they've burned more than 12,000 structures.
We know everyone wants answers, and the community deserves answers.
Investigators are trying to find out how the fire started and became so destructive. New analysis of images from satellites and a wildfire camera suggest the Palisades fire might have ignited near the burn scar from a blaze earlier this month. As for the Eaton fire's origin, newly released video of flames near an electrical tower on January 7th might be a clue. Experts say a perfect storm of wind and dryness caused the fires to spread rapidly. They say no fire department in the world could have done better with those conditions. But newly surfaced video shows firefighters warned city leaders of understaffing just last month.
If we cut one position, if we close one station, if we close one resource, the residents of Los Angeles are going to pay the ultimate sacrifice, and someone will die.
I'm Mimi Kylie reporting.
There's still hazards in these neighborhoods, down utility poles, debris in the roadway. We spoke to the family that lives at this home. They were one of the last to leave the Palisades. It's been more than a week and they still haven't been able to return back home, but we brought some of their home to them.
Oh my God.
It's the first time Paul Yonette and his 91-year-old father Howard have seen what's left of the home they lived in for decades. Roadblocks are keeping them out, but we were able to grab video for them and a few mementos buried amongst the ashes. When the evacuation orders came last week, Paul and Howard stayed. They raced to safety after trying to defend their home with garden hoses.
Do it, and then suddenly there was a wall of flame and heat and embers. My jacket was catching on fire.
Howard's other son, Henri, shot this video the next morning.
Oh my God, it's gone. It's gone.
The neighborhood he grew up in, destroyed. Now he's not sure if the community will come back again.
You have people who have lost everything and are absolutely not going to be able to afford having to live somewhere else on a pension.
While winds this week aren't nearly as powerful as when the fire started, Colin Noyes with CAL FIRE says they're up against dry conditions and low relative humidity, increasing the risk of new fires to pop up.
We have a strong initial attack force right now. All of our aerial resources here, all of our fire engines and crews, if they're not actively engaged in this, they can be easily deployed to any new starts.
Red flag warnings have been reinstated for parts of Los Angeles and Ventura because of gusty winds that are expected throughout the day today. In Pacific Palisades, I'm Lee Waldman reporting.
What is it like coming back to work?
I just wanted normalcy, so that's why I came back to work. But it's never going to be the same for the kids.
I mean, how are the kids managing? Because they would have, I mean, I know your wife packed some stuff, but they're very unrooted right now.
Yeah, I think they're doing as best as they can, you know, but they do have moments like my wife puts them to bed. They've talked about, you know, like, I want to go home. I want to go back to school.
Yeah.
You know, and unfortunately we live right next to the school, so that fire took the school too.
School's gone.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, this is my route home. This is how I get home in the morning.
In the morning, because you're usually working overnight, right?
Yeah, we worked 2 days, 48-hour shifts. My bench made it with the concrete.
So it's this house right here, Chin?
Yep, right here.
Oh my gosh.
Basketball hoop. The boys asked about the basketball hoop if they made it.
Man.
This is my garage.
This is your garage?
Yeah, we had just, like I said, we had just cleaned it up. Yeah, this was the front door. Little porch area. We're sitting right here.
And then, where did you see the flames?
You can just see the orange glow over the trees.
Ah, right over there.
Yeah.
No, you're not going to take the boys back here, right?
No.
No.
Yeah. We initially thought maybe we can come back and give them closure, but I don't think they need any of this.
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, they know, right?
Yeah.
So they...
Yeah, we evacuated, so they know. And we told them that that's burned down. Our house is burned down. The school's burned down. So they're trying to figure it out.
How long had you lived here, Chen?
We were here probably like 7, 8 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you come back to Altadena? Do you stay in Altadena, or?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up around here. I grew up in San Gabriel Valley. So we're not too far. And the plan of now is, we want to be back. And I think that's the feeling of most everyone on the street.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the baby grand that we had. You can see
there's a piano.
Yes. This is where we had our baby grand. You can see the metal
the
insides
strings.
with the
Yeah,
strings.
you see the strings.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh my gosh. I mean, you see fire every day, right? You see destruction every day. But how is it different now that it's your own life?
Yeah, I don't know, it's just indescribable. I mean, you know, when we go to a house fire, you kind of detach, you know, and you just try to do what's best for the homeowner, and you put their fire out, and we kind of salvage what we can. We pull what we can from them, and hopefully some of their stuff make it. But this is just just gone.
Looking for his wedding ring.
What's that? What's that?
What's that?
Let me see.
What's
That's
that?
it.
That's it.
That's it. That's it.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Show me the ring. Show me the ring.
Yeah, baby.
Oh my God.
Hell yeah.
Oh my God. Tim, what's your wife gonna say?
She didn't know. But
Oh, you hadn't told her? You didn't tell her you lost it? Now she's gonna know?
now everybody knows. But we found it.
Yeah, we found it.
Yeah.
You're all good. You're all
Yes.
good. What? Oh my gosh.
We found it.
We found it.
Something special about that moment and just what they're going through. You can help the Yu family by donating to their GoFundMe page. Go to GoFundMe.com and search for Chin Yu, CHIENU, to find their donation page.
In the past 24 hours, there's been little to no fire growth on both incidents.
Wildfire confirming Wednesday morning that they may be getting the upper hand on two of the state's most destructive fires ever, the Palisades and the Eaton. As of midday, containment on both had risen slightly since yesterday. However, air quality is posing serious health concerns. Around 17 million residents are under advisories for wind-blown ash and dust through this evening. And there are many other fire zone hazards yet to tackle,
including downed power lines, broken gas lines, hazardous materials, and unsafe water.
The investigation into potential causes continues. Analysis of image from satellites and a wildfire camera suggests the Palisades fire may have ignited near the burn scar from a blaze earlier this month. And in the Eaton blaze, newly released video of flames near an electrical tower on January 7th might provide a clue to its origin. A CNN analysis of recent available data from the 10 largest U.S. cities and other comparable fire departments show LA's manpower lower than almost any other major city, a disparity that was echoed in this warning last month.
If we close one station, if we close one resource, the residents of Los Angeles are going to pay the ultimate sacrifice, and someone will die.
In Altadena, I'm Maribel Gonzalez reporting.
Former Governor Jerry Brown, a Californian political icon, made the climate crisis a major focus of his administration, and he's joining us now from Northern California. Governor Brown, welcome back to our program. You know, it seems we always need to get your wisdom when we are faced with these massive crises in your state and elsewhere. Can I first start by asking you, therefore, to lay out what California has done over the years? It's known to be, quote unquote, the most fireproof state in the nation.
Well, first of all, let me just distinguish two fundamental points. Mitigation of climate change, that's reducing emissions, and resilience, which is preparing and dealing and confronting the consequences of a warming planet or of emissions. And that's really where your question goes. What's California been doing? It's spent more money on preparing for fires than any other state, or that in recent years, as any other time in its history. And generally speaking, the California fire services are deemed among the best in the world. And they really are quite excellent. And they have thrown themselves into this in an extraordinary way. California's been working on their forests in ways that the federal government has utterly failed to do. So they do design planned burns, they mitigate brush, they do all sorts of, and they pre-position engines and infrastructure and stuff that can be used to fight fires. And there's exercises. So California's doing quite a lot. But is that enough when you have 5 fires? No. The fires overcome in the moment, in the days when they're occurring, the best of human planning. So we need to do more. But these catastrophic events don't happen every day, and they don't happen in the same place. So you have to balance the investment with the risk. I think California's done a pretty good job. It can do better, and we're going to learn a lot from this particular fire. But given the nature of it, I think just starting the blame game is not helpful. And to politicize a tragedy of this nature indicates that America is moving in totally a new political direction, where dissension is going to be the order of the day, and that's not going to help anybody fight fires or govern.
So I just want to, pull out a couple of things. The preparation. I mean, some of the reporting has been. Is there enough water in the hydrants? As you said, multiple fires, high winds. It's almost, it is the perfect storm. To your mind, is it because there are this many fires and because of the winds added to the climate, or are there other infrastructure things that weren't in place?
Well, what I would say is, in trying to come up with a careful, thoughtful answer, it's not something you can do in the next few days. This is something that ought to be looked at very carefully with the federal and the state authorities doing their best and sharing the inquiry, not just popping off and say, okay, it's all Newsom's fault, it's all this, we didn't have the water, wasn't in the reservoir. I would hesitate to offer a well-grounded opinion that with the 5 fires, with the wind at 100 miles an hour, that such and such happened. We're still digesting it. And it's not any kind of science or normal judgment that you just start popping off after a few days. Why wasn't there water in the reservoir? Well, I heard because winter is the time to drain it when it needed to be fixed, full of pollutants. So there are a lot of explanations. I'm not going to try to say which are good or which are bad. It's a tragedy. People are dying. People don't have homes. And now to make a political football out of this, it's not only shocking, but it's a portent of America in the years ahead, sailing into very troublesome waters.
And let me ask you, because we've been focusing a little bit on Capitol Hill, as you probably heard, the confirmation process has started there. And the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, suggested this Monday that then perhaps needed to be conditions for, aid to California. And we know from research that your state, California, pays $83 billion more into the federal pot than it ever gets back in federal government spending. There's a lot of misinformation out right now. How does this affect the firefighting and people's morale?
Well, they don't always read all these newspaper accounts or the media accounts coming out of Washington. We're going to fight the fire. These are heroic individuals, the people who fight fires. They're up 48 hours sometimes. They're taking their own lives, putting their own lives at risk. So I think we need to just stand back a little bit and understand what's at stake. Now, if you want to say conditions on federal aid, does that mean that people who live along the Mississippi River and they try to rebuild, you're not going to give them any money? Or people on the Florida coast, in Miami and elsewhere, you see the sea is rising, your houses are built in the wrong place, we're not giving you any money. Well, I think that's a legitimate inquiry, but it shouldn't be just a Republican Democrat, Trump versus California. That's not healthy. California will fight back. We'll defend our interests, but we have to also work to pull our country together. We have so many challenges from abroad, but right here at home. And I'm afraid if the early indications from the Speaker and from the President are a portent of things to come, I'd say worse than the fires, democracy is on a real precipice.
And since you bring that up, I want to ask you about the whole DEI, controversy that this incoming administration seems to have as a mantra, DEI. We just heard it from Hegseth. He talks about equality, not equity. He talks about standards not being met, by minorities or women in the Pentagon. And there's already been Elon Musk saying DEI about what he believes is the problem in California with the fires. What on earth does that mean, and how? I mean, how is that affecting, the body politic?
Well, first of all, for Musk's comment that DEI is affecting, has had something to do with a fire is ridiculous. That's absurd on its face. Secondly, there's no doubt that there are gross disparities in our society. I can tell you, I've been the chair of a charter school that I founded 23 years ago. And the low-income kids, people who are not so good at English, people whose parents are in the lower income, making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year, they do much worse in school than more affluent families and kids. And these are our future. So yes, there is inequality. But does DEI perfect? No. They create little bureaucracies. And like anything, you take a position, you take a policy, and you push it too far. So DEI can well serve, can get some good reform. Not a problem, but don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Let's be practical, have good standards, examine the standards, try promote equality as best we can, but don't make it just a political football. There's been some really stupid stuff connected with DEI, and the Republicans are teeing off on it. So the Democrats are going to have to wise up and accept changes that are warranted.
Let me ask you about climate change, because obviously you brought it up at the beginning, and most of us who live abroad, are well versed in it. And the question is, will this focus Americans' minds on the problems with climate change? Because many have pointed to the scorching weathers, the burnt brush, the droughts, all the rest of it. And remember back in 2018 when there was the Paradise Fire in California, Trump went there, was with Governor Newsroom, and this is what he said about how other countries do it. Take a listen.
You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem. So I know everybody's looking at that, to that end.
Governor, you, of course, were governor then. Newsom was your lieutenant governor. He was standing next to you saying that. What do you make of it?
Well, it talks about raking the forest. That's absurd. Also, I want to point out that the federal government owns half of the wildlands in California, half the forests. They're national forests, all right? And they manage really subpar, below what California expects. And the reason for that is 30% of their positions aren't even filled. They haven't put in the money to manage their own forests. So really, you ought to look in the mirror and see the dereliction there. But beyond that, managing these forests is challenging. They're overgrown. We need to spend billions more and forever. I mean, this climate is changing. The challenge is not going away, and we need to do more. So if you want to say not enough is being done, you're right. And we have to go further. But we're not going to do it fighting over raking, over pointing the finger here and there. Trump is very convincing to a lot of people. And whatever he says, half the people are going to believe him. But in this case, he's dead wrong.
And Governor, finally, with all this talk about mass deportations, some have raised the question about who is going to be the workforce, who's going to clean up, like the toxic ash and all the other things that are going to be left in this war zone in parts of California now, if they're mass deportations. And added to that, do you think that these now regular crises will encourage people to leave California for good and set up elsewhere?
Well, elsewhere, they're going to have fires in Arizona. They get tornadoes and floods in North Carolina. The sea is encroaching in Florida. New York City subway flooded. Wherever you go, you're not going to escape nature. And nature is being disrupted profoundly to the tune of 50 billion heat-trapping gases put into the atmosphere every year. Until we get a handle on that, we're going to have to spend trillions on resilience, on compensating, building flood barriers, taking away vegetation, hardening houses. This is a huge national crisis. And I will say this, that Trump is going to start the oil drilling, is going to take away electric cars and appropriate efforts and regulations to curb emissions. And he's going to reduce to absurdity the proposition that climate change is a fraud. He's going to disprove that in a very dramatic way. And I believe the movement to rein in the climate change is going to grow under Trump. Maybe not the first few months, but in his term, you're going to see a radical awakening of people in ways they've been asleep today about the true dangers of climate, which affect everyone in the world. And unfortunately, it hasn't been treated that way, that China and the U.S. have to work very closely together. It's not just China, the great power adversary. China has to be a partner or we'll never make it. The same is true of Russia and other mutual threats that we all face as people. So it's not just California and Trump and Washington having to work together. It's California and America and the rest of the world. If we don't wake up, humanity will suffer and suffer grievously.
And it is right now. Governor Brown, thank you very much for being with us.